All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to tonight's NASCAR Weight Chase race number 5 of 10 coverage for the Nextel Cup Series season. Trying to get Casey Kane his first career Cup Series championship. And in tonight's race, we try to go for our 14th win of the season. I just realized we have 14 wins on the season. Looking for win number 15 on the year. Let me update the top of the screen. There we go. Let me count. I'm going to double count just to make sure I've got that right, because I thought I only had 13 after last night. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yep. So 14 wins on the season with Casey Kane. We've won 3 of the first 4 chase races, coming off a win at Talladega yesterday. And getting ready for tonight's race here today, also including into tomorrow night. So this will be kind of a double header, if you will, for Charlotte on the channel with the Cup Series. It's a 500-mile race. I knew I was going to be getting home from work a little bit later today, on top of the fact it's 500 miles. I just ran a 500-mile race at Talladega yesterday. I didn't get to bed till a little bit late, so with me working overtime tomorrow morning, I'm only going to be doing part of the race today. I'm not exactly sure how many laps I'm going to end up doing. I'm going to at least get to halfway in this race before I call it quits for the night. I might try to push it closer to about lap 200 if I can. It depends on how the pit cycling and stuff like that is, how many cautions we end up getting and whatnot. But we'll see how far we get into the race today, and then we will finish the race up on a different stream tomorrow, which will end up coming out before NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series racing at IRP. We do have a live commentary stream at 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow afternoon for NASCAR Cup Series practice for the Brickyard 400 at Indy. So we will have 3 streams tomorrow. We will have the finish of this race, which will be in between Cup Series practice and Truck Series race. So we've got a big window there. Cup practice is going to be done at about 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, and the truck race doesn't start until 8. So we've got about 6 hours to get the second half of this race, and that'll be no big deal. Probably look at about 5 p.m. Eastern for the resumption of this Bank of America 500. Qualified fifth, let's get this underway. I was 8th in practice, and we finished 2nd at Charlotte in the Coke 600 earlier this season. I made some adjustments from where I was at the end of that race. And for the second straight race as well, David Gill and Jeff Gordon will be on the front row as we are racing in NASCAR's backyard, Lowe's Motor Speedway. Already a little contact, kind of bodying our teammate Elliott Sadler out of the way, trying to pick up as many spots as I can on this initial start. Trying not to overdrive the car here. Almost underdrove it, really. Out of turn 4. Hopefully I've got this car a little bit more souped up. Trying to side draft Jeff Gordon for 2nd. That was more than a side draft. It'll work, though. We're up to 2nd. I didn't wreck him. And I didn't wreck myself either. David Gilliland leads lap 1. Ethan Chua, Wade, Billy Kramer, Dale Campbell, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I didn't see the release date of NASCAR 25. I saw your comment in the chat before I started the live stream, though. Just trying to read the chat right there and about wrecked. The first wall brush, only 3 laps in. Justin Besaw, thanks for tuning in. Doing good. I'm more awake than I was yesterday, despite the fact that it was much warmer today. I think it was as high as like 96 degrees here where I live. Got pretty hot. Heat index was up over 100. Chugged a bunch of water since I came home. Had some bagels and cream cheese, something a little bit light. I haven't worked out yet, so I'm going to have to do that when I get done streaming tonight, so it's a good thing I'm not doing the full race for that side of it. I'm not going to get in the habit of necessarily doing this. It's just that we only have the Cup Series left, and having all these 500-mile races consecutively with one another, it's just kind of hard for me to do this on a day where I work a full shift. And then have to get up and kind of do it all over again tomorrow, even though it's not a full day, so I got to get up at the same time. Kind of struggling to run down David Gilliland in the 38 up here. Oliver Smith, thanks for tuning in. But yeah, October 14th. Less than 2 months away. Doing my math wrong, sorry, just more than 2 months away. About 2.5 months. I was kind of hoping to be a little bit closer to like mid to late September, but I think it'll be worth the wait. And that'll give us a lot of content for the off season, considering there's only going to be a few weeks left of the NASCAR season by the time the game releases. Track the wall again off turn 4. Yeah, this car's not handling all that great. I've mowed the wall down so many times in practice, so I tried to free it up. And it seems like it's good in the first half of the corner, and the middle off. It just shoves. But I'm scared to loosen the car up anymore. Kyle Busch is looking to make a pass on us. That contact's not going to help us either. Gotta take care of it. Last thing I want to do is wreck. You're being a little too aggressive in the early going of the race. My point exactly. We're good. Almost turned myself on Tony Stewart's front bumper. This is way too over-aggressive of a start for me, I will say. Under some heavy pressure. Driving like a maniac. MotoGP Merchant, thanks for tuning in. Is that the Iron Pigs? Minor League Baseball game you're at? I only know of that name from the MLB The Show games on my road to the show growing up. See a lot of you guys talk about Hulk Hogan in the chat. Yeah, definitely a sad day for a lot of pro wrestling fans out there. Or at least, you know, many of them that grew up in the Hulk Hogan era, which his career stretched for a really long time. I mean, the fact that even me as a kid, being in my mid-20s, my earliest memories of watching wrestling, he was back with the WWE, late WWF at the time. I mean, he was WWE champion at the time I started watching wrestling. Some of my earliest memories of him, too, he was in the SmackDown feud. For those of you that watch wrestling, he was doing this Mr. America gimmick and helping Zach Gowen trying to break into the company. That was like some of my earliest memories of watching SmackDown every week. Some of the skits that him and Vince McMahon were doing at that time were just hilarious, even looking back on it now. The lie detector test. But, yeah, between that and Ozzy earlier in the week, we talked about that the other night, or, well, yesterday a little bit, but, yeah, crazy. Crazy stuff. Yeah, I just felt the need to put out a post like that. I usually try not to bring, I don't know how to word this. I want to be careful the way I word this, but I don't like talking about celebrity deaths as much, especially for people that might have, you know, some kind of shaken histories. I feel like in the public eye, social media and whatnot has a tendency to maybe overemphasize an impact of a celebrity just based on, you know, what they bring, you know, on screen or in front of the cameras that might appeal to a wide range of an audience. Obviously, like the Hulk Hogan with professional wrestling, or Ozzy Osbourne and the music, you know, screen. I don't agree with, you know, everything that those two men have done in their, like, outside lives. Like, for instance, I'm straight edge, and Ozzy Osbourne was far from that kind of a lifestyle back in his day. So, you know, I don't like condone anything like that, but a lot of the music I listen to nowadays heavily influenced by, bands like Black Sabbath. I mean, to look back at how heavy that band was for the late 60s, I mean, they really were ahead of their time. You listen to any other music from the late 60s, early 70s, and you don't hear, I mean, there's very few other bands that are kind of like that, I guess, from the metal side of things, where it is kind of dark. But, yeah, I mean, they have a lot of influence anyway on a lot of the stuff I listen to. So I figured I'd have to give out the shout out for that. And like I said in my post, too, that the pro wrestling side of things, I've been a huge pro wrestling fan since I can remember. And I went a long time without watching it. You get to a certain point when you're a kid and you realize it's not real, whatever. And then I fell out of watching it from about the age of like 9, 10 until I was about 18 years old again. And my senior year of high school, I got back into watching wrestling again, back half of 2018. I was watching my first pay-per-views live and watching a bunch of interviews and stuff on the internet. Kind of got me back into watching it. But anyway, I love it. I absolutely love it now. And I go to events all the time, which I mentioned, numerous times on the channel before, of events that I've gone to, concerts that I've gone to, that I try to make those trips as what I would with NASCAR. They really are my second passion. I have my family, I have the short list of friends that I like to talk to, and then my hobbies. I don't have like a extended family of my own, so a lot of the racing really helps me from a mental state of things. Obviously with you guys talking about racing and stuff, and then talk about other stuff that I love, because I don't get the opportunity to really reach out about that much. So I know that was kind of long-winded, I guess. Didn't really seem like I was going in any particular direction with it. The post that I had earlier, I think puts it into better perspective than what I'm able to, at least talking to you live. Hopefully you understand to a certain extent where I'm coming from. I'm getting freight train right now on this outside lane, by the way. Amidst all that conversation, and I can't get back down on the bottom of the racetrack, and we're falling outside of the top 10 in a hurry. I have not led yet. Trying to get down onto the inside, and there's just no lane for me to be able to do that. A little contact with Elliott Sadler. I had to be a little bit more aggressive and pinch him off. I hated doing that to a teammate, but I lost 9 positions. I was in second, and now we're back to 10th on lap 22. I just don't think the car is where I need it to be from a speed standpoint. I think Charlotte is the hardest track for me on this game. I had a tough time trying to get a good finish here in the truck and the Busch Series races, and finished second in the 600. We only led 13 out of 400 laps in that entire race. So I don't expect us to necessarily be super competitive today. Track position is going to be hard to come by, so losing all these spots, definitely not great, but see what we can do. Hogan's an American icon. Yeah, and for even being an American shtick that Hulk Hogan was with professional wrestling, especially in his early gimmick, obviously, with the WWE back in the 80s and early 90s, there's so many people that knew him globally that he was just as much, in my opinion, a global icon in the world of professional wrestling as he was an American icon. While he gravitated to Americans a lot, he cut his teeth in Japan well before he reached the limits of what he did in the WWF. I mean, he was constantly traveling the country. He was just as over, as a wrestling term, with the audiences overseas as he was here in the U.S. definitely wouldn't have the pro wrestling that I know and love today, without him. He transcended things, most of which was before I was born. But like I said, even when I was watching wrestling, he was around for a really long time. And, he was champion during my earliest memories of watching wrestling. So wasn't necessarily my favorite of all time, but can't respect what he was able to do for the company and for the business itself. Back in the 8th place position. I feel like when I get runs on these guys, they're at the worst spot in the middle of the corner where they're already kind of hooked up to the bottom of the track and I've got nowhere to go. I'm just hoping to get out of here with a good enough finish. If I can get a top 10 at Charlotte, I'll take that. I just know I'm not good here. Martinsville's going to be kind of a test, I think, in the next race, too. We get through these next 2 races, just keep surviving. Like, I won 3 out of the first 4 chase races. I'm not expecting to really win many of the races we have left on the season, considering Phoenix is the only track left that I haven't won at. I think we were only as good at Talladega as we was because we had the car of tomorrow, because I was not as fast there at the Gen 4 earlier in the season. So easy to overdrive the corners. I just did right there. It wasn't so much that the car was tight. I mean, the car's a little tight, but I'm scared to loosen it up and then be too loose for a run because I'm definitely more free than I was in practice. I was running behind Dale Jr. for a little bit in practice, so I kind of got a feel for the setup that I had at that time behind somebody in traffic, and it was tough. Here, NASCAR 25 Unreal Engine. I honestly, I knew about the people of iRacing being involved with the console game for a while now. As far as like what game engines they use and stuff, I know nothing of the significance of any of that. I'll read it and it will go straight over my head because I'm not a huge video game nut, I guess. I'm not saying that in a derogative way by any means, because a lot of people, like video games. I like video games, but the intricacies of what makes a video game work and stuff like that, I just don't have the knowledge of. So if I ever get asked an opinion on predictions of what to expect from the game itself or anything like that nature, until I play it for myself and can give you my honest feedback on what I personally think of the game, that would probably be better time to ask me. Because I have 0 predictions, other than the fact that I do feel optimistic enough from people that do know more about video games that I've seen on the internet and results to what they believe NASCAR 25 will end up being. And the very few people that have played it that I've seen on the internet give their feedback of it, it seems like we're in pretty decent hands. I can all but confirm it will be better than NASCAR 21 Ignition, which is a pretty low bar. But that would be the truth. Take it easy, 300 laps to go. Yeah, I've definitely been overdriving the car at times. It's so easy to get into a wreck here just because the track, it's narrow from top to bottom, especially in the corners. It's quite a bit of banking. The speeds are up. So that will make making a mistake maybe a little bit more easier to happen. Now in the 600, we had to make some 2-tire stops because of it being a 600-mile race, and we only had 5 sets of tires. So having the 5 sets for a 500-mile race will still be pretty tight. We'll have to stretch these runs out as far as we can for most of the day. But I don't think we'll have to make any 2-tire stops like we did in the 600, where we had to make 2 of them. We did not have many cautions in that race. We had a few, though. Another reason why I don't have to push extremely hard to try to lead as many laps as I can, I've got a 270-point lead. I would like to lead some laps in this race. just to ensure I'm going to get 5 bonus points. We've led a lap in every chase race so far this season. Actually, we've led the most laps in all 4 chase races, so we've actually got 10 bonus points. I think that streak's going to come to an end in this race. I don't see us leading the most laps, even if we go off strategy a bit, if we find a way, depending on how cautions may lay out later on. Like I said, I don't see that happening. That game is just flat out garbage. Yes, it was. Jeff Gordon out there leading right now. One of the chase drivers who did not have a great run at Talladega nor at Kansas. Now, we didn't have a great run at Kansas, but we picked up for it in the last race at Talladega, extended our points lead by quite a bit, really. There were only 3 chasers that had a top 10 in that race, and only 1 at Kansas when we had an off performance as well, so we didn't really lose a ton of points there, despite finishing 27. I just hope the game is good at launch, which I would imagine that it would be, considering it's been as many years as it has been since they've started developing the game. I mean, this game has been in the works for the better part of 2 years by the time the game actually releases here in a couple months. And I'm not expecting it to be perfect by any means. But I think it'll be a good game, and pretty optimistic for it. Way up the racetrack there. I was really trying to close that bottom lane off as much as I could, but once Kenny Schrader got his nose far enough in there, I had to just give him the spot. Got out of line, let him go. Slide back to 9th again. I'm hanging on in the top 10, and hopefully I can have a fast enough pit stop I can cycle ahead of these guys as well. Did they announce in the release date side of things when you're able to pre-order it? Like, are you able to pre-order it now, or... If so, I'll probably end up doing that as soon as I get done with the stream tonight. Bam Hall, thanks for tuning in. And well, we got back by Kenny Schrader. David Reagan back in the lead again, blocked up high. I got blocked down on the inside. My momentum got cut off on the back straightaway, so then I had to block Schrader. Kevin Harvick trapped on the outside. Hopefully Kyle Busch can get going here and kind of follow the 5 by the 29. I'm really hoping. Just couldn't get under there. I thought he was going to have enough of a run to do so. Wasn't the case, I guess. Didn't see it available for pre-order yet. Consoles only. Yeah, I just don't have that get-up speed on the straightaways to really make a pass work. Quarter tank of gas left this point in the run. Won at Rockingham in NASCAR 04. Congratulations. That was one of the tougher tracks on that game to drive, like the drivability of the car. Yeah, I kind of had a glitch where they couldn't drive into turn 1 as fast as you, so that part of it made it easier, but I burned my tires off the car a ton there. Side lane doesn't work at Charlotte. Yeah, not really. Not in the game, at least. Maybe in real life nowadays it does, but maybe NASCAR 25 we could rip the boards at Charlotte, but not going to be able to do that today. Not NASCAR 08. That was strange. John Wood seemed like he hit the brakes right off of turn 4, and I got loose trying to steer to the outside of him quickly, and we ended up getting by him. That was very, very odd. Tiger's out front already, awesome. Patrick Chatterley, thanks for tuning in. I'm assuming you meant half the race tonight. Around there. I may run a little bit past halfway. But not running the full race tonight. The furthest I would go would be around lap 200. Halfway would be lap 167. So we're at least going to make it halfway. And then finish the race up on a different stream tomorrow before the truck race. I mentioned about 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Honestly, I might make it closer to 6 just because I would imagine most of the race would be today, and then I'll probably just do the last like 200 miles or so tomorrow. I could definitely get that done in less than 2 hours at that point. Pretty solid corner through turns 1 and 2 here. Huge run down the back straightaway. Couldn't grip up down on the bottom though. How much time I lost through 3 and 4. I mean, interval-wise, when you look at our deficit to the leader, who is now Juan Pablo Montoya again, we're only about 0.6 of a second off the lead. So that's not bad at all. I think I'm going to try to take some wedge out of the car. Worst case scenario, if I go the wrong way, I can move it back. Maybe adjust the air pressure instead on the second stop. But I definitely need to make this car a bit better. If I can. Attempt to at least make it a bit better. The least I can do is try. Because the speed we have in it right now is just not going to cut it. As far as trying to win the race. I'll scrape off turn 4. Definitely seems like my car grips up more in turns 1 and 2. But even in 1 and 2, you can just see the center off. The back half of that corner on the turn 2 side and the turn 4 side. That's where I'm struggling the most. It actually kind of rotates in the second half of the corner better when I enter on the outside through 3 and 4, but I'm not running anywhere near as quick as the cars in front of me running that line either. So I'm losing time either way. At least it grips up and I'm not in danger of hitting the wall or anything. Ooh. Yeah, Jeff Gordon pitting this time. I'm going to try to stay out as long as I can to see if I can lead a lap. At least being up in the top 10, it could be possible. Might end up losing a little bit more time on the back side of it, but I'd like to get my 5 bonus points now because I don't know if we'll be this close to the front of the field again. Might have the rest of them pitting in front of us this time. All right, so we're going to pit the following time by. We're going to get our 5 bonus points, and we'll lead our first lap of the night. It might be during green flag pit stops, but they all pay out the same as far as the bonus points go for leading at least 1 lap. That'd be 5 points. And I don't think we're going to be any contention to lead the most laps with the lack of speed in the car for the race win side of things today. So give me the lap sled early. And here we come. That was a pretty solid pit entry. All right, I'm going to take the half round of wedge out of the race car. Going to drop the air pressure 1 pound all the way around as well. So some minor adjustments. Try to help the balance of the car. Which of the 6 charters are we pooling money to buy? KRC Consortium principal owner. Yeah, I don't have the money for a charter. I don't know if we can get a GoFundMe going to get anywhere near the price of what they're selling for. They were like $20 million a couple years ago, and it's probably more than that now. We might have actually cycled better than where we were running, which is really shocking to me. As we get up to speed down the back straightaway here at Lowe's Motor Speedway, Casey Kane is in 5th. We were in 7th place before the pit stop started. So even staying out as long as we did, great stop by the pit crew that we gained 2 spots, and we were still able to lead a lap. And now with the adjustments, we'll see how much better the car's handling. Again, we took a half round of wedge out. We dropped the air pressure all the way around 1 pound. Now, dropping the air pressure, I'm trying to get the car to sit maybe a little lower earlier in the run. That should tighten things up a bit. But that's just so that way I didn't overdo it by taking the half round of wedge out of the car. That might have loosened it up a little too much. So I was trying to basically counterbalance it. If I have to move the air pressure back on a slight adjustment the second stop, I will. And that was our first set of tires going on the car, just shy of 60 laps in. So we've got 4 sets left the rest of the race. Tony Stewart leads, Kyle Busch in 2nd, Juan Pablo Montoya 3rd, and Mark Martin 4th. Obviously, Casey Kane again in 5th. Martin on the inside of Montoya for position. They're slowing each other up, running side by side. Casey not really able to capitalize off of it, though. Evan Stevens, thanks for tuning in. Martin going for 2nd on Kyle Busch now. There we go. Now I've got the run on Montoya, but look at how deep he drives it into 3, and I still kind of floated off of that white line just a little bit. It wasn't terrible by any means, but man, I could not drive it in that deep. Pushing Montoya, trying to get him a bump draft to get by Kyle Busch. And hopefully we could follow him there, but I don't know if this is going to work. Dang, I don't have straightaway speed. I mean, that's what it boils down to. My turn in the corner is a lot better than it was before with the adjustments, so I'm a bit quicker overall because of that. Might make for more passing opportunities than what I had. But I also kind of faded as that last run went on. So I'm curious to know how much the fall-off's going to be this time as well. Because we were as high as second real early in the race, qualified 5th, and we net lost 2 spots by the end of the run from where I started. And run to the outside of Busch, but again, kind of protecting that bottom lane. Can't really make a pass there. I have ran my fastest lap of the race post pit stop, so on top of not only it just overall feels better, it is quicker. The lap time shows. Tony Stewart hung up on the outside. We've had a couple cars side by side in front of us this run, but I haven't been able to make a pass. Damn. I probably hit that wall off turn 4 like 3 or 4 times in the race now. First time on this run. Stewart beats us by a couple positions. That's fine. We'll still have over a 1-race lead in the championship standings with 5 races to go. Craig Franklin, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I don't think I've got anything to try to pass these guys. I mean, I'm really pushing. I really am. I get so close behind them when they kind of bottleneck up when they're battling side by side like they are now. Even this time, I'm not really catching up much. But by the time they get single filed out, I just can't get there. We're lacking straightaway speed. Set my fastest lap, 28.747. I did give my thoughts on Hulk Hogan at the start of the stream earlier. I would imagine you probably saw the community tab post that I had earlier. If I were to, if you want my clear thoughts on my behalf of, you know, what he has done for me personally, that does a better side of it. So, I mean, to briefly discuss it here, I mean, definitely sucks. I mean, you don't want to see anybody pass away. I mean, there's very few people in this world that like people could kind of gloss over something like that. There's a lot of historical significance, obviously, with this one. And me being a pro wrestling fan, it does hit home to a certain extent. It's one of the few, like, icons, I guess, that I personally grew up watching because I have been a pro wrestling fan for most of my life. And some of my earliest memories of watching wrestling on a week-to-week basis, he was on TV in the main event picture. On both Raw and SmackDown back in the early 2000s, around like 2002, 2003 and stuff. So, he wasn't necessarily like my personal favorite wrestler of all time. Triple H was always my favorite, but he was feuding with the likes of, you know, Triple H and The Undertaker, who I maybe more idolized than Hulk Hogan, just for other reasons, obviously, but respect him for what he was able to do to the business, as a lot of people within the business would probably say as well. A lot of groundwork and foundation done for himself in the 80s when they first really started that major boom period, the first of a few that they've had since then, and being at the forefront of that. And he was a lot of people's hero. You know, there's so many like athletes, celebrities in general that are looked at as, you know, heroes in the retrospect that Hulk Hogan, the character, was on TV in professional wrestling back in the 80s and 90s. And while I wasn't alive, you know, at his earliest heights on the professional wrestling side of things, there are certain, you know, fixtures in my youth years that made me feel the way that Hulk Hogan made other people feel. So, you know, for that, he was known, you know, one of his nicknames as the Immortal One, and he really will be, although not from a physical standpoint, but that's a name that's going to be remembered for a very, very long time in professional wrestling. I mean, it still has. I mean, you look at the fact that the guy hasn't wrestled in almost 2 decades, and he's just as significant in the world of professional wrestling, you know, as he was back then. Not to the same extent, but everybody knows who Hulk Hogan is. My grandparents know. Actually, when I was at my grandpa's house for his birthday a couple days ago, and they asked me about when I was down in Texas if I went to a wrestling show. I was just like talking about my Texas trip that you guys know of when I went to Dega in Texas. And I was like, no, I didn't go see the wrestling show that time. They were kind of confusing it with the one I went to Texas a couple years ago. But anyway, I was like, no, I didn't that time. And then like my grandpa was like, oh, who's that guy? He's like the Hulkster or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, Hulk Hogan. And we talked about Hulk Hogan for like 2 minutes. I kid you not, just the other day. Like my 73-year-old grandpa with Alzheimer's remembers who Hulk Hogan is. Like, so I mean, that goes to show that there's a lot of people that knew who he was. That, you know, my grandpa never really got into pro wrestling. He never really watched it at all. Even, you know, me as a kid, I didn't really watch it at my grandparents' house necessarily a lot. That was something I would kind of watch at home because it was during the week a lot, obviously with Mondays, and SmackDowns at that time were on Thursdays. So I was, you know, in the comfort of my home a lot of the time for that, especially with being during like the school year and stuff. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that him and Ozzy Osbourne within 2 days of one another too. I'm not trying to put like myself into the equation by any means, but the historical significance that both of those two have on some of the things that I enjoy the most with my life on a day-to-day basis. You know, my Mount Rushmore of basically things that I do, and I don't really do anything outside of that, outside of like, you know, family and stuff, but the outside stuff from an entertainment aspect, it's racing number one, and then I would put pro wrestling, depending on how good my round of golf is going, and then music as my number two. Like they're all kind of like a trio, depending on the day. You know what I'm doing more at that time. They're my next go-tos. Kind of help me get through the middle of the week when things mentally for myself aren't, you know, clicking on all cylinders, or I got something going on and I got to wait until the weekend for the NASCAR stuff to pop up. You know, Monday Night Raw is on every single Monday, and I'm watching more often than not when I'm done streaming, and I'm listening to music when I'm doing everything. When I'm getting my notes for the streams every weekend on Fridays and Saturdays for 2 to 3 hours, I'm constantly listening to new music. I'm constantly listening to new music, just like mowing the lawn, doing laundry, just little things. And a lot of the music I listened to was helped shape by, you know, metal bands back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I grew up listening to a lot more Ozzy stuff than what I have in like the last like 10 years or so. But there are still times where I get that like 80s fix or that 70s fix. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go back and listen to this stuff because it is nostalgic for me. I listened to that a lot more when I was, you know, in my middle school and high school years before I discovered a lot of the stuff that I listen to now. So that and the, I mean, you can really dissect a lot of today's like metal music and see inspiration for bands from back then. And obviously Ozzy was huge on that. And he wrote a lot of the music. If that, I mean, either wrote or co-wrote pretty much all the music he was ever a part of, especially with his solo career. Yeah, Metallica's my number one personally. Like that, whenever that day ends up coming where they like announce their retirement, or, you know, they'll have like a tragic passing in the band whenever that comes. Unfortunately, it will end up, you know, happening at some point. It's just part of life. But that will definitely hit me very, very hard. Like the Ozzy stuff, it didn't hit me to the, you know, to the core. Even kind of the same with Hulk Hogan, because it wasn't like my favorite wrestler of all time, but had enough of an impact on my life that I understand the historical significance of it. And, you know, they were a small part of, you know, making my life what it is today. That's why I felt the need to really kind of share that, because I really don't touch on like celebrity deaths or anything like that. Kind of like I mentioned, I don't, especially if I've never personally met the person. Like I've never met either one. I've actually never even seen like Ozzy perform live. I don't think I would have ever done so, considering like how old he was in the back half of his career and stuff like that. I have seen older bands play like in recent years. Like I've seen Metallica play a couple times in the last few years and stuff like that. But anyway, long story short, I've never met them, you know, in person, so I can't say like if they were good or bad to me specifically. I can only share on the little things or the outside things that they've helped me a lot. Like I said, mostly from a mental standpoint. Mental relaxation. Everybody gets stressed out. Things pop up in life on a regular basis, and it's cool to look forward to stuff like that. Whatever your interests are, and those are my interests. A lot of old Metallica. Yeah, I had my Metallica kick it comes in cycles because they're my favorite band of all time. They're the band I go back to and listen to by far the most of any of the older bands that I would go back and listen to it that isn't as much modern. Like most of the stuff I would listen to nowadays. And I've seen them a couple times. There's very few bands I've seen more than once in person, and Metallica's up towards the top of that list. But yeah, I had my fix of Metallica about a month ago or so. I was listening to a lot of their old stuff on repeat. I like it all, though, honestly. I'm pretty basic. There's very few Metallica stuff I won't listen to. A lot of the St. Anger stuff I won't listen to, but pretty much everything else I'm open. Oh, man. Scott, you need to get out of the way, sir. My goodness. He was jacking up Kyle Busch there for a minute, and then I couldn't get around him cleanly. He was kind of running that middle lane, but it wasn't wide enough off the bottom for me to feel confident squeezing under there. I almost got picked behind him. I could have lost several positions. So I've outright made a pass for the lead, yeah, but being up in second place right now, I'll take that. It's been a while. Having a hard time trying to hold on to second. Highest running chase driver, so there's that. Kyle Busch is not one of the championship contenders. Yeah, I know who Michael Marooks is. I don't watch many other NASCAR YouTubers. The ones I do, they're not really on the gaming side of things. I don't really watch really any gamers of like any kind when I'm watching anything YouTube related. Like a lot of the wrestling stuff that I watch on podcast wise, they're a lot more on the interview sides. I don't like, reading the dirt sheets or finding like the inside scoop on specific stuff. I like to let everything that unfolds on the couple-hour TV shows that they post, live with Monday Night Raw on Netflix and SmackDown. I try to digest it more like that. When I first got back into wrestling, I wasn't doing that. I feel like it's just a healthier way to watch professional wrestling. The internet can skew a lot of things. And I've kind of grown to the fact that they don't know anything more than I know at this point. So anything rumor mill wise or speculation wise, I try to leave it up to myself and build my own opinion on that. And I've kind of grown the same way with NASCAR too, to a certain extent, especially with having a NASCAR oriented YouTube channel. I want my own thoughts. I don't really want to try to focus on seeing what other people's opinions are in the YouTube sphere, especially with NASCAR, because I don't want them to kind of bleed over or feel like I'm regurgitating somebody else's sentiment. Really try to think for myself more. Justice for All. Yeah, that's my favorite album of all time. Yeah, that is my favorite Metallica album. I mean, a lot of their old thrashier stuff, there really isn't a bad song on any of those albums, but that album in particular sounds so more modern than any other Metallica album out there. It's thick. The guitar tone, probably my favorite of any other Metallica album. James Hetfield's voice between And Justice for All and the Black Album, far better than any other album vocal-wise, in my personal opinion. There was a little bit of load. There were some songs he kind of had that same kind of snarly, raspy growl, I guess, if you will, with his vocals that he does in the Black Album and Injustice for All, but there was very few songs on like the load stuff. But yeah, that was like peak vocals from Hetfield. I'm all for fast music, so you know, I do tend to listen more to the thrashier stuff from Metallica than anything else. I still go to the other stuff from time to time for a mix-up. Because I do think it is good music, but it's music to my ears, at least. Matthew Dorter Bruno, thanks for tuning in. Shahir Gaming, also, I don't know if I shouted you out yet, but thanks for tuning in. Yeah, 1 is my favorite song. I mean, anything from Injustice for All, like I mentioned already. I think my second favorite on that album that kind of gives 1 a run for its money, for my ears specifically. Again, everybody's got their own opinion and their own favorites and stuff. But Shortest Straw is probably right up there with it. That song's just so punchy. The guitar riff is so fun on that. Little skippy. It's so good. I usually beat the hell out of my steering wheel in my car when I'm listening to music, but that song, if I ever listen to that song in particular, I'm constantly thumbing my steering wheel to the guitar riff of that song specifically. That's one of my favorite riffs of all time. That's what I love about Metallica the most, is they're so guitar heavy with all their songs. A lot of bands from that era were of the thrash metal scene, but there's so many catchy riffs. They're from Metallica that are forever engraved in my memory. I will not only not forget them, but I'll just randomly be doing random stuff. I could go like 6 months without listening to Metallica, and I'll randomly get the intro to Creeping Death stuck in my head like at random. That's another one of my favorites from them. But it's always the guitar riffage that gets stuck in my head the most when I listen to Metallica. I'm very guitar heavy when I listen to music. Like a lot of the metal bands that I listen to now, if you dissect music well enough, and I'm not a music theorist by any means, but guitar heavy bands are what I love to listen to. I go guitar, drums, then vocals are kind of the way I dissect music. If it's got a fun riff, they're very catchy, that'll usually catch my attention first. And then I'll kind of pay more attention to the drums, because like I said, I'm usually beating my steering wheel a lot while I'm driving to and from work, whatever. Oh, this is going to get narrow. Got to give Harvick some room. Got trapped behind Nemechek, not to the extent Kyle Busch did, but got trapped behind the slow car. David Reagan gets to the lead. Harvick second, and we're going to fall back to third. I didn't realize there was 2 slow cars on the track. That was the first time we caught Nemechek. Caught Scott Riggs a couple times already. What's for dinner? I don't really know what I'm going to eat. I'll probably just have a couple Hot Pockets. I kind of ate already. I already had bagels and cream cheese. A couple of those right before I started streaming. I still got to work out too, so I'm not going to eat too much heavier the rest of the night. Probably just something quick. Have a protein bar immediately after that, and that'll be all she wrote for me for food-wise for the day. Mark Martin in the 6. No, he's in the 0-1 in this game. In the 6. Well, I'm definitely better on this run. I feel like I can win the race. We're more confident in being able to do so. But I'm still not the best. Yeah, I've heard a lot of that with the gripe on Injustice for All. It's like, well, how could that be their best album? I'm not saying it's their best musically. I'm just saying that it's my personal favorite. I think it's sounding as modern as it does. It sounds the most like any more modern metal bands that I listen to. Master of Puppets is definitely a close second for me. It's tough. It's tough though, because there's so many songs from those early albums. If I took like my top 4 or 5 from each of those albums as like my greatest hits, I would put it up there with Injustice for All. I think that one is just my favorite when I include all 9 songs that are on the album compared to all like 8 or 9 that they had on the other albums before that. Like the Four Horsemen, riff-wise, there's multiple riffs in that song that stick in my head rent-free. The fast part at the end of No Remorse. Alright, gonna pit this time before I run out of gas. Second stop of the day. Upcoming. Trying to get to pit road. I'm trying to be a little bit more aggressive with the braking there. That's why I was sliding sideways a bit. 4 tires of fuel. I remember Hulk Hogan said, "Gentlemen, start your engines." I don't specifically. I don't really remember a lot of commands over the years. Oh boy. Caution flag is out while we're on pit road. First caution of the race. We went over 100 laps green to start. Can't believe they still play So Fast Live. Yeah, I know. I mean, they've lost a step, but it's not by much. Listening to them live. Like, when I just saw them last year, or it was about 1.5 years now ago. Well, actually, it's going to be going on 2 years since the last time I saw them. Oh, boy. November. That was a hard hit for Kurt Busch. He DNF'd so many times this season, especially in the back half of the year. I think that's his 3rd DNF of the chase races already. I'd assume he ran out of gas on the back straightaway. But he knows the wall hard. I don't know if that was safe for barrier wall or not. I'm curious to see where we restart. We might be the leader. Yeah, we are the leader. Being on pit road, I don't know how many cars are going to be a lap down. I would imagine that there are some. We stayed out quite a ways. Green flag back in the air. I think there's a lot more cars a lap down than on the lead lap, which is also going to help us depending on who exactly is a lap down. One of which is Tony Stewart. He's trying to get his lap back on the restart, which he does so. Nobody else was involved in that caution other than Kurt Busch, so I don't really see us getting a debris caution from that wreck anytime soon. So Stewart is going to have to hold out and hope for a caution. Kenny Schrader behind us in the free pass spot. Only 10 on the lead lap. Yeah, that definitely helped us a ton. A lot of fast cars that are a lap down. A lot of guys who have led already in the race are a lap down now. Schrader right into our back bumper. Cliff Space on Ride the Lightning. I'm trying to think of my favorite Cliff bass song. Even though it's really repetitive, I feel like Whiplash would be up there. That's like one of Metallica's just like, if you just want to hear like straight, fast music, Whiplash is the song for you. It's just like 3 to 4 minutes of the same riffage. But it just goes on for so long. It's like, man, how do they not cramp? I don't understand how the wrists can withstand that. That was the first song that they played when I saw them most recently. Because they had that 2-night show that I went to in Detroit that they were doing on their last tour. And they were kind of running it back this year, I think, in the U.S. too. But year before that, they were doing a 2-night show, 2 different set lists. And they started off with Whiplash on night 2. They started off on Creeping Death on the first night, which I mentioned already was one of my favorite songs. So that blew me out of the water. I try not to look at the set list in advance, so I'm surprised at what happens what. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, there's so many favorites for me. I really do like most of their stuff. I think one of my favorite bass lines from Metallica, it's not with Cliff Burton, and it was on the Jason Newsted side of things, but on the Black album, there's 2 of them specifically. My Friend of Misery, although it's much slower, it has thick bass to it, and The God That Failed is probably my favorite song off of that album, just for the bass line itself. That goes so hard. It's the simplest, like, slow, heavy guitar riff too. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that's great. You can't not bang your head to listening to that song. The message behind it's very deep, but it is like I said though, I don't really like listen for lyrics when I'm listening to a lot of the music I listen to. They come not even really secondhand, it's more like third hand. After I listen to the song so many times, you know, I pick up on the lyrics, but as far as like meanings behind it and stuff, the guitar riffage speaks more to my soul than anything else. It's coming from somebody who never really tried to play guitar. I had one when I was younger, where I never really like got into it. Had I gotten a guitar when I was at an older age and was actually listening to more of the music that I listen to nowadays, I think I definitely would have attempted to actually learn to play a lot more often. But now I'm at the point where with the music I listen to, it would take me so many years to learn how to play my favorite parts of songs, let alone like some of the songs I listen to from start to finish, that I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of time, effort, and energy that have to go into that. And I'm good with focusing my time, effort, and energy into other stuff. I will be more than glad to just pay to listen to that stuff more than I will to learn how to play. You know, I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I don't feel like I'm missing out on much because, I mean, I'm talking, it would seriously take me years to learn a lot of my favorites. Like, not just Metallica, just a lot of other stuff I listen to also. Played Rock Band. I played Guitar Hero growing up. I didn't really play Rock Band much, but yeah, there were a few Guitar Heroes specifically I played a lot. It was the Guitar Hero 3. Was that the Legends of Rock one? That one I had for the PS2 way back when, and then on the PS3, I think it was World Tour. I played that one quite a bit also. There's another one I played for a bit on the I don't even know if it was PS3 or PS4, but there was another one in there, and I don't know the name of it. I can think of some of the songs that were off of it. It was definitely into the 2010s. But, yeah, I did play Guitar Hero growing up. That was probably the closest I could come to playing a lot of the music that I listened to. And I wouldn't be able to play it on an extreme difficulty to an efficient rate. Oh, I played the Metallica one a lot too, of course. You know, being my favorite band of all time. I don't know why that slipped by me. Although I wasn't as into Metallica when that game came out, because I think it came out around the Death Magnetic album, so that was like 2008 or so. There were only select Metallica songs that I really knew of at that time, which were basically any other more trying to think of, I don't want to say publicized songs, but it's, you know, they're basic, more basic songs that they would play on the radio, like a lot of the Black Album stuff. Like, those were really the only songs that I knew from Metallica at a really young age like that. Because, like, my parents didn't really listen to, like, anywhere near, like, the metal stuff that I was doing. Like, even when I was getting into listening to a lot more of, like, the old school thrash metal bands, like, I'm talking, like, even, like, well before my time, like, Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and Metallica. Like, I love that stuff. Even to this day, like I mentioned, when I go back and listen to old stuff, that's the old stuff I'm talking about that I go back and listen to. They never really listened to that. They listened to a lot of the, you know, just straight 80s, you know, your AC/DC, Guns N' Roses and stuff. And I never really got into listening to that stuff as much as I did with that. It was either all the new metal stuff that was coming out that was actually new at the time, when I was a kid, with some of those bands like Linkin Park and Disturbed, like stuff like that, I would listen to when I was a kid. As far as like new bands at that time that were actually making music on a regular basis, Dave Blaney, pick a line. We've got so many slow cars on this racetrack. My goodness. Dave Blaney, Scott Riggs, and Joe Nemechek all have had issues that are apparently not terminal, but they're very slow. Personal favorites from the Black Album, Enter Sandman, Sabbath True, Wherever I May Roam. Talk about Metallica all day. I don't really talk about music much on the channel, so it's a nice change of pace. Tuttlebuck5, thanks for tuning in. Yep, NASCAR 25 coming out October 14th. Another slow car, Scott Riggs. I feel like I'm catching these slow cars in the corners all the time, too. At least Scott gave me some room that time. Jeez. Held up David Reagan, Kevin Harvick on the outside. Only us and Kyle Busch got through cleanly. Busch putting a lot of pressure on us, and we actually only were able to pass him because he got stuck behind, I believe, Joe Nemechek earlier. And that's how we got through to the lead the most recent time and have had it since. Yeah, I don't really know anybody that listens to the same music that I listen to the extent that I listen to, like a lot of the heavy stuff. So whenever I like come across like random people that are wearing like any sort of merchandise of any metal bands like nowadays, I always give them a shout out, even if I don't necessarily listen to the bands that they're specifically wearing. I gotta commend them on it. Kind of the same thing with NASCAR though too. If I ever see somebody wearing anything NASCAR related out in public, I gotta make sure I say I respect the hell out of you or something for wearing what they're wearing, because you don't see that as often around where I live. Unless I go to a concert, then everybody's wearing that stuff, and that's a different story. Same thing with like going to a NASCAR race, but if I see them out in the wilderness, random Walmart approach. Like I remember seeing some dude wearing a Ryan Blaney shirt at Walmart a while back, and it was the same exact shirt that I had. That I probably wore on stream with him a couple weeks before that. And I was like, hey, I've got that shirt too. From one Blaney fan to another. Have a good day or whatever. Whatever I say to him. Best Metallica song, Enter Sandman. That's definitely a lot of people's favorites. Definitely their most recognized song. I'd probably say that, Nothing Else Matters, are probably their most recognized song. Yeah, the passing of Chester Bennington hit me a lot harder than Ozzy Osbourne. from just a personal level for sure. Like I said, though, Linkin Park was making music, and although even like their last like album or two I didn't really care for or listen to, even at that time, they were still very fresh and a huge part of my childhood. And being younger when he passed away too probably had a lot more to do with feeling it in my soul a little more. That's probably the celebrity death that has hit me the hardest, I think, in my entire life. Because I wasn't old enough to remember Dale Sr. I was only 2 years old when he had passed away. And there hasn't been a death in NASCAR since, thankfully. Ryan Newman being as severely injured as he was after his 500 crash back in 2020, like that scared the hell out of me. Being as wrapped up in the sport as I am. That probably would have been the closest to it, but luckily we didn't lose him, and luckily enough for him, with the way COVID worked out, he actually only missed 3 races. Yeah, NASCAR music, pro wrestling, like I said, golf. Not specifically from like the professional level when it comes to golf as much as it is like me playing it, but yeah, those are my 4. It's my Mount Rushmore of things to do in everyday life. Those are my passions. I don't really do anything else. I'm not a movie person. You know, I don't really get into books or TV shows, so that's how I pass my time. So we're only going to be, really sideways off turn 4 there. We're going to be halfway home here at about another 20 laps or so. I think I'm going to try to push to lap 200 before I tap out for the night. And we'll finish the race up tomorrow. The only reason that didn't really scare me as much is because he actually got out of the car under his own power. Like the Newman deal, the way they went off the air that night, it felt reminiscent to clips that I had watched at some point in time, whether that be on YouTube or docu-series that I had seen, anything reporting on the 2001 Daytona 500. It felt eerily similar. I think that's why that moment scared me as much as like any other crash I've seen, both in person or on TV before. My day's been good. It's been hot, but staying cool now as much as I can in this somewhat muggy room still, but I'm here. Not sweating too badly tonight, so it's not terrible. I actually did change my clothes when I got home though. Like I was sitting in my car. My shirt was soaked with sweat from being at work today. That was a hot one. I think it cooled off for that little bit, even though it hasn't cooled off a lot in the warehouse. So then when it got as hot as it did today, I was like, oh yeah, this is what it felt like for a couple weeks straight. About a little under a month ago. Hope I wasn't wearing long sleeves. Yeah, well, I have a tendency to wear long sleeves a lot. So I was. I roll my sleeves up almost all the time though, but especially when it's warm like this. I'm probably the only one that wears long sleeved shirts at my work. that doesn't sit in an air-conditioned office. Yeah, I'm going to push the lap 200. I didn't want to go that... I mean... Oh, boy. I've got split 3 wide. We're definitely going to lose the lead to Kyle Busch here. Big slide off turn 4. Going to hold on to second. But Busch is back out in front here at Charlotte. Yeah, there's a lot of people that wear those, like, fans around their neck that kind of, like, blow into their face. There's quite a few people in my work that wear those. I wouldn't wear anything like that, though. I just drink a lot of water. Try to absorb as much water as I can. Stay hydrated. Kind of help keep myself awake. I'll post the schedule tonight for the community tab as to when I'm streaming this weekend. David Reagan gonna get by us and Kyle Busch. We got by Busch for second. Busch actually got into the back of Dave Blaney. I think somebody hit him from behind, and that pushed him into the 22. Oh boy. That Kenseth under us. Got the Arby's machine? It is. Oh boy, a little contact. Hey, how about Roush Fenway showing out tonight? Now we got David Reagan and Matt Kenseth 1-2. A big run after Kenseth though. Slamming him. Wasn't the cleanest way to make the pass for second, but we got by him. Oh, overdrove it. Clipped the apron. Saw Scott Riggs up there, and I was trying my best to close in on David Reagan before he could get by him. Yeah, I don't think a bump and run is great on a 1.5 miles. I'm just overdriving the heck out of the race car right now. Tires are getting older. We're in the back half of the fuel run. Probably going to end up hitting in about 20 laps or so. Only had 1 caution in this race. Jeff Gordon's up to 3rd. Assuming that he's on the lead lap. I'm losing time to Reagan, though. He's definitely quick in the back half of this current run. I haven't looked at the weather forecast, for this weekend at all. Get Gordon getting by, see if we can cross him over. Got the over-under move engaged. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay underneath him by the time we get into turn 1. Drive it in deep. Hope it sticks. There we go. It did. Oh, got a little free. That's a slide job right there, but we're all clear. Now we'll block him on the back straightaway. We're up to second again. a job well done. Give myself an old metaphorical pat on the back after that one. I think I'm going to be starting the new season of NASCAR 08 next week. Probably not. If I do, it would likely end up being on Friday or probably Saturday. It depends. I mean, I might be able to clinch the title a race early. In the event that I do that, I think I could get it started by the end of next week, but if not, it'd be the start of the week after. We'll have plenty of time because I have a little over 2 months. Seasons are going to be a little bit shorter. So, yeah, there will definitely be plenty of time to get it done before NASCAR 25 releases. %50 chance of rain on Sunday. Well, I will say, I am usually one to be optimistic when it comes to weather percentage chances with the race. And I feel like you really have to wait till around the day of or the morning of before you get a really good idea of what the weather's going to be. Because it can be forecasted, and I've seen so many times where rain is forecasted for instance on Sunday or Sunday afternoon, but it'll be like a different time slot from when the race is actually going on, so it doesn't actually interfere with anything. Even, for instance, last week, I think it was either on Friday or Saturday, it was at the start of the weekend, Sunday had a 65% chance of rain, and yes, it did end up raining, but it didn't rain until we got to about 14 laps to go, and it only rained for about an hour or less, and they were able to get back out there and race. Actually, the red flag itself is only like 55, 56 minutes, so a very brief rain shower. So while, yes, it was a 65% chance of rain, it did end up raining, but it didn't wash out the race by any means. Pocono was kind of the same way. It was a high percentage chance of rain. I think it was 80% that day. Well, it did rain. The race was delayed about 2 hours, but then they got the full race in afterwards. So it's not like it's a 50% chance of rain all day, as much as it is during just specific hours of the day. And, you know, at the end of it, we usually only get a couple rainouts every year. And this year, we've actually been very fortunate because there hasn't been a single Monday race all season. Knock on wood, but I can't remember a year where we've gone this far into the season without there being a race on a Monday. Jeez. I only got as loose as I did off turn 4 there because I was steering so far to the left to keep it off of Scott Riggs. He was running that middle groove even off the exit of the corner, didn't push wide to the wall, and I needed that extra racetrack. Lost even more time to David Reagan because of that slide. We're about 8/10 back now. Jeff Gordon just pitted behind us from third. It looks like Reagan will be pitting this time by, so we'll take the lead for a brief moment. As we'll be hitting the pits very soon as well. Caution came out while we were on pit road the last time, and I want to see if it's going to be possible that we end up catching a caution again. The yellow came out because Kurt Busch ran out of gas on the back straightaway. By the way, I just realized Tony Stewart's out of the race. Oh my gosh, Joe Nemechek. He is so slow. To his defense, he stayed on the outside. I caught him way quicker than I thought I was going to. I didn't think I was going to catch him that fast going into the corner. Wow. Any adjustments on the next stop? I don't think so. I've gotten a little bit quicker each run. Even though I didn't make any adjustments from the second stop, I only made adjustments on the first stop. I don't think I'm going to make any this time either. Yeah, I'm definitely pushing it on fuel. I'm just waiting to see if we catch a caution again like we did the last time. It just started flashing on me like 2 laps ago, so I should be able to go at least one more. I'll be pitting this time by. It'll be the 3rd stop of the night. We'll have 2 more sets of tires the rest of the way. Trying to beat Clint Boyer to the inside because I'm going to be pitting this time. Didn't want to risk going another lap. I had troubles trying to back that thing down. Once I came up off the apron, or off the racing line onto the apron, it bottomed out quite heavily. Kept it under control, though. I think you should stay overnight in Indy, would be my personal advice. That's what I would do. I don't think traffic would be too heavy getting out of there, but you just don't know what time of the day the race is going to end, especially if with the the weather and everything. You'd be getting to Detroit very late. Like, it might be early Monday morning. Get a full night's rest, and then get out there. No sense of driving on not much sleep into the night and not getting a full night's rest that night into the following day. So David Reagan is the leader following green flag pit stops. We lost a spot to Jeff Gordon, who pitted a couple laps before us, and we lost time to David Reagan also, probably because he pit before us, but I'll take 3rd. We're having a solid run for ourselves right now. There aren't many cars in the lead lap. The only caution we did have was in the middle of green flag stops on the 2nd time through. Well, that is why you see as many cars lap down as you do on our scrolling leaderboard. Only 2.5 seconds off the lead. We'll have to see how the slow cars maybe end up backing David Reagan up a bit throughout the course of this next run. Gordon, myself, Kenseth, Truex, I believe, are the only chasers in the top 10. 9 cars are on the lead lap. John Wood in 10th is the first car lap down. Kevin Harvick's catching us very fast from behind. Oh, Dave! I had to jam on the brakes, and I still got into him because I slid so much. He started high, and then right in the middle of the corner, he cut down. If you're going to go wide, you got to hold your line. You can't just move right in the middle of the corner. Looked like he did that intentionally, actually. I lost a full second to David Reagan because of that. He didn't only screw me, he actually ended up screwing over Kevin Harvick even worse, because Harvick was right behind me, and now we pulled way ahead of him. Yeah, I'll be live for Cup practice tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. Yep, so we'll have 5 live commentary streams. We'll have a triple header tomorrow by finishing this NASCAR 08 race up. Doubleheader Saturday, and then Sunday the Brickyard 400. We'll center David Gilliland's 15th. Hit their 6th car lap down. Well, got some clean air to work with now. See if we can run down Jeff Gordon. Finally caught one of those slow cars on the back straightaway. Few and far between times I've been able to do that today. Closed in about 0.2 of a second on David Reagan that last lap. He must have caught him in a corner. See, if I got that lucky every time, we'd probably end up catching David Reagan at some point. Harvick is quick, though, because he's running me back down again. I did my best to stay in front of him, but it's not going to be easy. Stretch. Now I lost time to the leader, and I'm 4 seconds back. Yeah, Harvick's underneath me now. I got to give him room off turn 4. Drove in deep. Wanted to see if he was going to leave a lane open. Did a great job driving it in deep and getting the car to stick on the bottom of the track. Might be able to get him back on the front stretch here for third. Oh, I've got him. Let's go. All right, got him back. Battle's probably far from over, though. Mirror driving. Pulling out my best Joey Logano impersonation. Jojo, thanks for tuning in. But Holy Diver is definitely a... That is definitely a banger. Oh boy, hang on. I'll get to that in a second. Dave Blaney's backing everybody up. All three of us gonna have to get by him on the outside. Harvick might get by Jeff Gordon for second. Kurt Busch is back in the race. I just blew turn 3. Harvick still stuck behind Kurt Busch. Come on, go! Why is my car slowing down so much? I can't... I pull to the inside. I can't even get a run on Harvick, who's stuck behind Kurt Busch. Kyle Busch has caught us from so far back. Oh boy, that got tight. Harvick blocked me. Why can I not get by the 2? Slammed into him. Well, got by him there. Just took 3 notches of respect up for me. Yeah, he's definitely one of the all-time greats. My high school years of experiencing like a lot of the classic metal bands. Like I mentioned kind of earlier, I don't know if you were in the stream at that point in time. Metallica, far and away, is my favorite, and I feel like I have the most variety that I listen to of them. But I also kind of go back listening to a lot of Iron Maiden. Judas Priest is another really big band for me that I listen to a lot of their stuff. Back in that time. Really any of the big 4 like thrash metal bands. I've actually seen Megadeth before. Not that long ago, 2021, about 4 years ago, I saw them in concert. But yeah, they were definitely a huge inspiration and kind of getting me to listen to a lot of the even more heavier but modern stuff that I listen to now. And I still go back and listen to stuff like that probably a couple times a year. Like every like 3 or 4 months, I'll have that like week stretch where I'm like, you know what, I'm feeling more of the 80s, 70s, 80s today, and I'll just go back and listen to a lot of that stuff. But yeah, those are kind of like the big three for me specifically would probably be more on the Metallica, and then it's a toss-up between Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. Those are my top three. But yeah, there's definitely some other bands in there that are not far behind by any means. I don't know how much of it that they hate Lars on the drums as much as they just hate him as a personality. I feel like that's where a lot of the hate comes in for him. There are some songs in their later years where the snare is definitely off tone, but see, it's another one of those corners where he started before him pass on the outside. My goodness. I ran into the back of so many of those slow cars now. It's not every time I catch them, but it's like every few times. Going back to the roots. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I try to mix it up. I mean, I love discovering new bands and just overall, like, I mean, there's so many bands out there that I listen to now that would never get like any sort of like radio friendly playtime. YouTube is huge with that because they'll recommend me a lot of stuff of other bands that I listen to. It's like, oh, you know, so and so's got a new album coming out, so they're like constantly pushing it on the algorithm. So I'm constantly discovering new stuff. Yeah, I mean, it holds this music does hold a special place in my heart. I mean, listening to even a lot of the older stuff that I was experiencing for the first time when I was through the years of high school really helped me get through high school. So it holds a special place in my heart, and on top of getting me to other bands that I listen to now that pull a lot of inspiration from those bands. I mean, there's so many bands that I listen to now. A lot of the like metalcore bands from the middle of the 2000s era, there's so many of them that you can hear a heavy Metallica and Iron Maiden inspiration from specifically. Like, I love Trivium. Trivium's a band I've seen live in person twice now. They were actually the most recent concert second most recent concert I've been to, but yeah, they're awesome. If you listen to a lot of their older stuff, you can hear a heavy Iron Maiden influence on there. I tried showing it to somebody at work that I've talked to music about. He's older. he was definitely complaining about him screaming a little too much. And the funny thing is I actually sent him a song that there's like barely any screaming in it. There's screaming during like a 30-second portion of a breakdown in a 5.5 to 6 minute song, and that's like the only screaming that's in it. The rest of it's clean vocals. I'm like, all right. I mean, I guess if it's not your taste, not your taste. At least you gave it a try. I tried to give them. It wasn't. I mean, they've got even softer songs than that, but yeah, I highly recommend Trivium as far as like newer bands that are still coming out with music. I mean, they just had 2 albums released just since 2020. I was looking at the chat too long and I ran into the wall. But yeah, they're definitely one of those bands I go back to and listen to a lot. I mean, they're in my top 5 for sure. I think Trivium's probably my top 5 favorite bands of all time. Like, I know I go back, I hold a lot of the older stuff in higher regards as far as, like, all-time favorites, just because I never want to forget, like, the gateway stuff that got me into listening. But of the modern bands I listen to, they're in that top 2 or 3 for sure. Actually, when I did see Megadeth back in 2021, that's Trivium opened for them. It was Trivium, and then it was supposed to be Lamb of God, but Randy, the lead singer from Lamb of God, had COVID at that time. This is right when they were getting bands back into concerts with full capacity and stuff like that. Anyway, he ended up coming down with COVID. He missed the show before us, and then our show he missed as well. I was supposed to see him in Fort Wayne. So then Trivium and Megadeth just ended up playing a longer set because it was just 2 bands that night instead of 3. So that was pretty cool, because especially that being the first time I was going to see Trivium, and I liked them even before I saw them the first time, so I was excited to see them. But it kind of sucks when you see bands that you really like as an opening band, because they don't play very much. They only play like probably 8 songs or less for their set. Especially them being a band that's got a lot of songs that are longer. So I actually got to see them play about a full 15-song set as if they were headlining or co-headlining, because there was a loss of another band there. So that was pretty cool. And it was unique, too, because they were playing... They probably played like 3 or 4 songs on that set list that they hadn't played the entire tour up until that point. And then I got to see them headline most recently when I saw them. But yeah, I highly recommend them. It's definitely of the new wave that if you're a fan of a lot of like older thrash stuff from the 70s and 80s, they're a great combination of both that and with a modern sound. Clip clap noises. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of rap and hip hop inspiration in it. It's just more mainstream now than what it was back in those days, where, you know, rock and roll through like the 70s and 80s was very more mainstream than that. I think a lot of it too also comes from TikTok attention spans, because songs like that are so short. Like, my sister listens to a lot of pop music or whatever is on that side of things, or even like more like modern country. A lot of the songs she listens to, I kid you not, like every song's like 2 minutes or less, 2.5 minutes or less. There are some metal songs that are like that I listen to, but there's very few. A lot of the songs I listen to are still like 3.5, 4, 5 minutes plus. I like the complexity. I mean, you like what you like. I'm not gonna, you know, bash people for liking maybe more of a basic sound. All right, you know. If that's more your taste, it's more your taste. But you better not give me any flack for the stuff that I listen to, because it goes both ways. I usually don't. There's a lot of people I don't know that I listen to stuff like that. I think a lot of people, because they know I'm the NASCAR guy, especially where I work, they probably just all of a sudden assume that I listen to country, which is not the case whatsoever. Oh, we've got trouble. Somebody got in the wall in turns 3 and 4 up here. And they're going to slow down a couple of cars on the front stretch. Pass of the grass. Up to second, got by Harvick and Gordon. I don't know who that was that got into the wall, but that helped us gain 2 spots. And we went from about 5 seconds off the lead to 2.5. Had to kind of clip the grass to get by Gordon and them guys. And Bobby Labonte was low and had to swing wide. I got an ant on me. I could feel it already. Yep. Didn't even have to look. No! Why do I always miss? I always miss. I miss. I like kind of knock him off my leg, and then he's on the run. I got it. All right, we're good. 7-minute Metallica songs. Yeah, I think every song off the Justice for All album, which I mentioned is my favorite, is like 6.5 minutes plus. Actually, Dyer's Eve, I think, is a little less than 6 minutes. I think that's like 5 and change. All right. I was about to go into a corner, so I might wreck unpausing this. I'm only going to run a few more laps, and then I'm going to get out of here for the night. We'll be finishing the race up tomorrow on the channel. We will have 3 streams tomorrow. We got Cup Series practice for the Brickyard 400 at 1 p.m. Eastern. That'll be a live commentary stream. We're going to finish this race up at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So same start time we had today. I'll be saving the game and then continuing on from there. We'll probably have a speed glitch right when I end up unpausing it, because when I tested out the save game, realizing that I was able to do this before, I ended up having a speed glitch where everybody was way faster than me for a couple laps. So hopefully I don't lose too much time. Probably end up giving up the 2 spots I just gained, honestly. We're past halfway through the fuel run, so we're going to have to pit not too far from where we're at now, but we should be almost inside the window to make it on 2 stops at the end. We only have 2 sets of tires left, so I'll have to remember that for tomorrow, but we shouldn't have to pit more than twice anyway, as long as I don't get into a wreck, which so far I haven't. I've had a couple of close, fast racetrack. We've got like 3 or 4 plus slow cars, probably 4 to 5 slow cars on this racetrack in this one, making things difficult for us, more than they already are. Metallica, it's definitely, or Master of Puppets is definitely over 8 minutes. And Justice for All is like 11 and a half. It might even be closer to 12. That's a long song. Shogun from Trivium's like 12 and a half minutes. You listen to songs like that, and it's almost like watching a... Well, you're not watching it. I guess you're listening to it, but it feels like a short movie almost. Like there's so much that happens in such a long song like that to keep it interesting from start to finish. Probably is a 30-minute song. I mean, I guess if you listen to like one of those couple songs I just mentioned 3 times in a row, that'll give you 30 minutes. I don't know if I could do that, though. You get through it once, you know, maybe after the first listen, you might listen to it again because you're like, oh man, that was an experience. Since we were talking music, by the way, favorite song that has dropped in 2025 so far, especially because we've been talking about a lot of older stuff. This is a song that I did show that guy from work that I mentioned. There is a little bit of screaming. He liked this one more than the Trivium song, but Bleed From Within is a band that I've discovered within the last like 2 years or so. Way more recent than a lot of the other bands I listen to. But I dig them. They're from Scotland. They don't really have like an accent though in the midst of the vocals. They have 2 vocalists. They have a clean vocalist and a screaming vocalist, but they have this song called Edge of Infinity. I highly recommend, for any other metalheads that don't know that song or don't know that band, I highly recommend Edge of Infinity is a song name, and then Bleed From Within is the band name. You'll love it. I almost shed a tear the first time I listened to that. They dropped that song like 2 or 3 months ago. When I saw them in concert most recently, I'm trying to think. I think they released the album like man, it was like a week or two before I saw them, and they played a couple of songs off that album, but they didn't play that one. And I think it's only because they were opening, they played 5 songs on their set list. I was hoping they would play that one. But yeah, that's my go-to. I probably listen to that song like once every week, once every other week or so since it released. I've been going back to that one the most of any new releases in 2025, so I highly recommend that song if you're looking for something to listen to when I'm done yapping here in a little bit. I think I might end up making my next pit stop and then calling it quits, just so that way I don't like unpause the game and then run out of gas because I forgot that I had to pit soon. I don't want to go less than 100 to go, though, for tomorrow, so we can have at least a little bit of length in that stream. Got Connor Zilic winning Saturday. Yeah, I think it's going to be between Zilic and Larson. I mean, Larson running an Xfinity race, it's really hard not to pick against him, but Zilic on a hot streak. He won at a similarly styled track at Pocono, so he's definitely going to have speed this weekend. The Pocono race, he only got better as the day went on. Like, he started off probably the second or third best car. By the end of it, he was quicker than anybody else. He's in track position, and he just dominates these Xfinity races with this car. It fits his driving style more than the Cup. He's got way more experience than a lot of these younger guys, so I think he is definitely the clear-cut favorite, but Zilic would be my number 2. Definitely check out Edge of Infinity. Yeah, you'll have to let me know what you think. There's a lot in it. I mean, it's very theatrical. There's a lot of piano in that song. But, no, it kind of made me emotional, honestly, if I'm being honest. I'm not very vulnerable on the channel, but it came out at a time where I was kind of going through a rough patch like 3 months ago, or so. It was probably longer than that. The song's probably been out for like 4 months now. I can't remember when exactly the album dropped. It might have been like March sometime, but yeah, no, it hit the sweet spot for sure. It's such a good song. That and the All That Remains, I think the All That Remains album as a whole that they dropped this year is my favorite album of the year, but my favorite song of the year is Edge of Infinity from Bleed From Within. And that's a song that I can recommend to people that even don't listen to metal music, and they'll probably like it too. If you like instruments, you'll like that song, essentially. That's what it boils down to. Oh, wow, we got a caution. Our second of the race. I was going to go to 100 to go and then pit, but it looks like we're going to be pitting under caution instead. And I think it's debris for Dave Blaney. It looks like his hood came off. So one of the slow cars bringing out a caution. Last sad song listened to from Linkin Park, One More Light. Yeah, they have a lot of sadder songs in retrospect, but I think a lot of that has to do with knowing the backstory of Chester Bennington. That probably makes it more sad looking back on it than what it was when it first came out. Yeah, honestly, the Edge of Infinity, like that song, I haven't had like a new song make me feel that way in a really long time, so that one definitely hit. I was mentioning about All That Remains, but Let You Go was my favorite song that released last year. That album didn't release until, I think, the end of January this year, but that was one of the singles off that album that came out like late, like October, September, or something like that the year before, 2024. So that was my favorite song of last year, but then their whole album's a masterpiece. They're a little bit heavier than some of the other bands I've talked about tonight, but I love it. That's all that matters. I like it. Spite? I don't think I've heard of them. All right, trying to survive the restart here. Lost 3 positions on pit road. We went in second. We came out 5th. Jeff Gordon, who was in 3rd, comes out with the lead. 2 yellows. We've got 105 laps to go at Charlotte. And we're not far from the end of our road for today. Yeah, I mean, it's good to cry every once in a while. I don't think I like actually cried when I listened to it, but it made me feel a specific way. I was like, oh yes, that's a. Now it's just a song that I can't not sing along to while listening to it. No, it's really good. It's a really good song. That's my like I said, it's my favorite song of the year 2025. So I'm gonna recommend that over anything else that I've listened to new. There's a lot of cool stuff that's come out from a lot of bands I listened to this year already. Honestly, this is like the biggest year for me with bands that I listen to coming out with new stuff since probably like 2021, 2022. 2021, there was a lot of bands I listened to that were coming out with stuff at that time. 2020 during COVID, I felt like there was a lot that was coming out. Bands had time to write music during that stretch because they couldn't tour. Well, now this year, there's that. Architects is another big one that I listen to. They dropped an album this year. Spirit Box dropped an album again this year. Yeah, there's a lot of cool bands that have already dropped albums, and we're only just past halfway through the calendar year. There'll probably be more to come. Linkin Park, I guess, technically, too. There's some good songs off of that album. Think what you think of about the new singer, but, you know, they're... Like I said, I'm easy to please with music. If there's a particular song I like, I'm going to like it, I'm going to listen to it, and I'll probably go back to it every once in a while. So there's a couple of them off the new Linkin Park album that kind of gave me the nostalgic feel. I'm like, yes, this is what I grew up listening to. But, yeah, there's been a few. It's been a few. Arcanimi. And so I do listen to them. Do they have new stuff out or something? Or are you just, like, throwing them out there? There's some stuff from them that I really do like. For some reason, I don't venture out to them as much. I'm like that with a lot of bands, though, too. There's few bands I feel like that I actually, when they drop an album, I'll listen to it all the way through and then find songs that I like or don't like. Most of them I will end up liking. I kind of switch from band to band. I'll listen to like one band for a week or two consecutively and rotate through like a whole catalog and then on to the next one. And I'll end up like cycling back to that said band again months down the road. Enough time passes by where I'm like, you know what, I haven't listened to them in a minute. I was listening to a lot of Motionless in White the last like week or two, and then I Spirit Box, then Motionless in White, and Fit for a King's got a lot of new stuff that they've dropped. They haven't dropped their album yet, but that's another band that I listen to that they should have an album coming out. I think it's coming out very, very soon. I forget what the release date of that is, but it's going to be soon. I don't think they're releasing any more singles. I'm looking it up real quick before I end the stream because it's kind of bothering me. I don't remember the release date. The 30th, so next week. Yeah, I knew it was coming out really soon. But, yeah. Older stuff is better. I think my favorite genre of metal is like the mid-2000s stuff that I've listened to. Like, I like stuff now, but I feel like the bands, even like new stuff that bands from like the mid-2000s era, because I didn't listen to that while I was growing up necessarily. There's a few songs in like some of the old Madden games I played when I was a younger kid. Like there was Bullet for My Valentine was like on a ton of those old video games. I really love listening to them. They're one of those top like 5 or so bands that I go back to and listen to a lot. But yeah, they have a lot of stuff on video games from when I grew up. A couple of their songs were on Guitar Hero. Kill Switch Engage was another one. Like a lot of those era bands I think are probably my favorite as a whole, and then I would probably say like the old thrash stuff would be my second. And there's cool stuff now, but I feel like the sound variety from band to band with a lot of stuff that comes out now isn't as vastly different compared to... That's why I like Bleed From Within so much, because they sound like, you know, bands that were coming out with new material like 10, 15, 20 years before that. So they're almost kind of behind their time a little bit, but they still put out some good music. All right, that's enough, rambling for the night. It was cool to talk about something different though throughout the course of the stream. We'll be back to business tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for our next live commentary stream. Where we will be talking all things NASCAR, Brickyard 400, Indianapolis, for that 1 hour stream. And then IRP for the Truck Series tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll post the community tab schedule real soon here. That'll be up on the channel, and you guys can take a look at it. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow. We'll finish this race up at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, for those of you wondering as well. So triple header of Fast Friday action right here on KRC.